wanted to talk to you a little bit about dehydration and constipation and what all that can lead to. So, let's talk about dehydration. So dehydration occurs in our elderly very, very commonly for several different reasons. Number one, they're resistant to having to go pee a lot. They know if they drink water, they're going to have to go to the bathroom. They do not, believe it or not, want to be on their call light every 30 minutes to make you have to go take them to the bathroom. They got to get their walker out, they got to get their gait belt on. It takes 10 minutes just to walk from here to there. It's a lot of mess, and they really don't want to do it. So if they're sitting there and they see that pitcher of water sitting next to their chair, they may not want to take a drink because then they're going to have to go pee all the time. Plus, sometimes they're on medications that make them pee all the time to get rid of extra fluid on their body. Then they really don't want to take any water down, okay? Also, in the elderly, their feelings of thirst start to diminish. So they're not as thirsty as like you would be. So they're already not drinking like they should. Top of that, a lot of your residents depend on you to give them all of their drinks, all right? They can't reach for that cup of water. They depend on you. So it's a struggle all the time to keep our residents hydrated, okay? So we need them to take in about 1,500 to 2,000 mils per day, right? And that is a struggle to do that. So make sure that you're offering them drinks of water. Make sure that you're having them drink all their fluids on their tray at every single meal, and encourage them to drink. Make sure there's something to drink at every single activity. So there's always things being offered to them. Every spit in the ocean counts, okay? All right, so let's also talk about their digestive system, okay? What takes you about 3 to 4 hours for your stomach to dissolve a regular meal, turn it into liquid, and dump it into the small intestine? That takes you about 3 to 4 hours. That's why we eat every 3 to 4 hours. Our residents, on the other hand, what happens with them? They have decreased secretions and atrophy, which means their muscles are weaker. So they don't have as much hydrochloric acid in their stomach. Plus, their stomachs don't churn like yours do. Nope, they're a lot weaker. There's not enough acid. So it could take them 5 or 6 hours to dissolve the same meal that you had, okay? So here we are, taking them out of breakfast at about 9 o'clock in the morning and then turning right around at 12 and saying it's time for lunch. So that might not be best for them. They may not be hungry, okay? So that affects that right there. So everything's slower. We're talking about peristalsis now. As soon as you swallow, your muscles start doing peristalsis, which pushes your food on down. This is why you can hang upside down on monkey bars, take a sip of water, and it still goes to your stomach instead of dribbling out. So their peristalsis is slowing down. Their muscles are not as strong. Okay, so this meal finally oozes into the small intestine. The small intestine's job is to draw out all the nutrition. Okay, so what's in the small intestine should be watery. It should be like a broth. Okay, and then as it comes all the way through, it dumps into the colon. Now the colon is your large intestine. This part is about this long, about that big around. And as it comes through here, the colon's job is to absorb all the water the body needs, okay? So it comes in here watery and should come out here as a nice, soft-formed bowel movement. However, in the elderly, what happens? First, we're dehydrated, right? So what's coming into the small intestine may not be broth. It might be more like cream of chicken soup, okay? It's a little too thick because they haven't had enough water. Right? So it's a little too thick, plus it's not moving through here very fast, right? So by the time it pours into the colon's gonna hold on to it way too long. That peristalsis is slowed down. And it's kind of like over baking it. It's gonna take out It's already soft serve now instead of broth. So it's soft serve coming in here, and we're gonna take what little liquid that's in there, we're gonna absorb that. So it's just gonna come out really, really hard, right? So dehydration leads to constipation. Constipation, you know your resident's constipated when maybe it's been a few days since they had a bowel movement. When they have had a bowel movement, maybe it's little rabbit turds. Or maybe it's like a big hard turd that looks like a whole bunch of little rabbit turds all stuck together. This is not a good sign. If you see that, you need to be telling your nurse right away, okay? Also along with that, they might have some cramping going on because that peristalsis sure is trying to push it out, okay? It's also important to document your bowel movements because after 3 days, if a resident has not had a bowel movement, the nurse is going to give them a laxative before they go to bed. Hopefully, first shift has a big mess to clean up. But if not, 4th day, they get a suppository, which causes even more cramps. 5th day, they get an enema. So if it's only because you failed to document your bowel movement, then they're having to get unnecessary enemas. So make sure you're documenting them. But on top of that, there's a lot of things we're trying to stop, okay? We have got to stop constipation. We have got to get it out, and we don't have a lot of time. Because if this backs up, we could end up with a great, big, huge bowel movement that's hard, and it's so big that it is stuck in your colon, okay? Does not feel good, right? The resident's gonna feel full because everything back here is gonna be backing up into it. Nothing can keep going. So it can even get so bad that it backs up into the stomach. They can even have emesis of bowel movement. So this can get very serious very quickly. But if they have this, what do you call it? It's packed down there, right? Like whenever you're packing down dirt. It's called a fecal impaction. If a resident has a real fecal impaction, most likely they're going to have surgery to have it removed if they qualify for surgery. Otherwise, it could be a death sentence. That's how serious this is, okay? So, let's say that they do qualify for surgery. Surgeon's gonna have to come in here, cut the colon here, cut the colon here. They're gonna stitch this up and let that heal. Meanwhile, this part of the colon is gonna be pulled out through the abdomen, folded over like a sock, and stitched in. Now, feces is going to be diverted to this hole instead of this one. So it'll have to go into a pouch. This is called a colostomy. We want to avoid this at all costs, but remember the way we avoid it is to prevent it. We prevent it here. We give them as much fluids as possible. Okay? Thank you very much.